Getting to see your face when you're not around. You've been doing just what you do, the same as I've done too, again and again. Hey, it's about time to pull your punch, knowing I've had enough, 'cause I've done the same.
We are here, Underground Dialogues number 2. Super happy to be joining Heavy in their dungeon in East Berlin, and we're super excited to be here. How are you guys?
Great.
Very good.
Doing awesome.
Okay,
man. Thanks for coming down to the dungeon.
Right on. So last year you released an EP. Open quote, wait, where is my... Oh, there it is. What was going on here? How was your the process of releasing an EP last year? You even managed to book a couple shows, you know, like with hygiene measures. It was a bit of a dystopian landscape there. Talk us through this process.
Yeah, well, we realized that we released all of our music that's currently streaming in 2020, which I guess is kind of a testament to all the people that said, "Hey, we're gonna get our quarantine EP done." Like, we got our quarantine EP done,
and more.
Yeah.
And more.
It wasn't supposed to be one in the beginning, though, of course, but
right.
So let's move on now to speaking about your experience as a band in Berlin. You've been here in this city as a band, at least. I don't know individually, but you've been here active for about 2 years. Mm-hmm. You yourselves described as having found yourself somewhere as part of a community here in Berlin. I'm interested in knowing, how do you perceive this music community, and how could you describe it?
I think everybody who has come to Berlin has said this phrase and understood this phrase, that Berlin is a village. And I think the rock community is definitely a parallel of that. It's an echo of that. You'll meet the same people. You'll see the same people all over the place, and these people are friendly. These people are supportive. They're at shows all the time. It's really great. It's a very, I think, small but supportive community. Yeah, do you guys have anything?
Yeah, I agree. It's been great, and it's been easy, I think, also to get into it. That hasn't been a challenge. I
Totally.
think it's just you show up and you talk to people and you're there. Like it's not more complicated actually.
Playing shows, that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
Talk to the people afterwards, before that, just network.
Play and go yourself. And that, I mean, if you like to do those things, pretty soon you'll
also
get into it.
meet other bands and say, hey, let's merge, let's try to get a gig together, because we get booked easier than if we give them the package already.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
A lot of kind of DIY bands will understand this, that you have to do these things yourself, and learning how to interact with venues and knowing what helps them and what gets you quicker playing shows more often.
And I think that, so I've been here for a long time, and it used to be different actually. Bands used to play against each other, like act and work against each other, like, oh no, I'm gonna be famous, no, I'm gonna be famous. But now it's like you see like there's a necessity to work together actually to achieve anything, right? So it's kind of cool, because now you feel the networking like effect of it.
Have you found yourself in a spot where you try to establish a deeper connection also with, for example, promoters and venue owners? Or have you find some challenges in establishing these type of connections?
And I think your attitude also really affects it. If people are, especially in tight-knit scenes like this, they're typically good at sniffing out bullshit, you know? And if you're inauthentic, or if it seems like hey, I'm just in it for like getting my band to play, like hey, I want my band, it's like, whoa, chill. like realize that this is like you support and you get supported. It's a back and forth, you know what I mean? So I think that's a little bit more on the scene side rather than the venue scene relation. But I think we were very successful, and mostly in part to these guys. These guys put in a ton of work on just putting in the hours of sending out emails and making contacts and, you know, going to shows. Like I was at a lot of shows, and it's just like networking, all these things.
You do network.
Yeah, I'm the PR.
I'm usually the first one.
PR, and these guys are behind the computers.
I think we should mention that we're talking about our buddies. Like, it's people that we like, you know, and we just like to hang out with them. So
Totally.
It's not just like this cynical sort of like.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. It sounds like you guys went through a relatively smooth process, you know, finding these people, making friends, establishing contacts. I'm interested in hearing, Val, you mentioned you've been here for a while.
Oh no.
And, you know, like, perhaps you also faced some challenges, and you've seen these type of challenges for artists evolve through time. Can you think of anything that you say, maybe these things were a little bit more challenging than perhaps the networking side of things?
I don't know, it depends on the venue actually. So nowadays venues are more professionally organized. They used to be more DIY back then, but now some venues don't accept you with the approach that we're doing. They say, no, you need an agency that's doing the job, and then we don't even talk to you. So back then you would you wouldn't play at Columbia Halle at any time, so that's not possible without any professional support. But other venues, and there were more of them. So there was a culture, there was like a subculture. People would dress the same, listen to the same music, you know, and you would know. Now it's more diversified, which is not a bad thing per se, but it's not that like an impact. It has like, you know,
I think one challenge which has been there is getting out of Berlin, because it's nice to be here and it's nice to play here, and you can play gigs. At some point we played one gig every month, I think, like in the city, more or less, which was really cool. But you also want to go other places, and that can be a bit challenging.
And the venues would sometimes say, "Oh, you're playing too often in Berlin, so."
Yeah.
You
Actually,
you played last week. Then no, we don't, because we don't want to get less audience.
Yeah.
So then you have to go out and play somewhere else and come back.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea of what could be causing perhaps this shift from the DIY old school Berlin venues to this more professional oriented? And if you have any idea of why that's happening, what do you think we could do about it? Because I think it's important also to have these types of DIY venues and these more accessible venues for, I mean, there's a lot of artists that don't have an agent or don't have these types of, professional networks. So why do you think that is?
It's a hard one.
Well, I can't really speak much to how it was before, but I do think that I think it's important for people in the scene to say, like, look, all right, we gotta set something up, because venues are closing left and right, and things are shifting, and venues that have been around have become more popular, and so they're only booking agent type bands, and so we need to we need to keep stepping up and creating more spaces for bands to play.
I agree. I think it's partly you can talk about gentrification and about like occupied houses being shut down and stuff like that. That's not good for this type of scene. But also it's on, like, we also have a responsibility as a band to like be part of that, and not just, I mean, we could sit in this room and rehearse all the time.
Exactly.
But actually we have another responsibility as well, to like go out there and also go to shows and support other people
in creating spaces too.
Yeah.
That's I think that's the big thing, because I mean, if the only places to play are shutting down, and other places are more professional, quote unquote, somebody's got to create these DIY spaces, and it's back in Seattle. How we did it was just move a couch aside and play until the cops showed up. That's kind of like the punk style things, but I mean, there's smart ways to do it, but it's important.
I think you're touching on some very, very important and interesting points. The story of Berlin, how the way that the city attracted its more contemporary residents is because Berlin was this type of place where you had a lot of these spaces for people to play. And now through new people coming from the outside, there's a very different pattern of development of how the city is evolving. And I think this is putting a lot of pressure on these spaces. So like you say, I think creating spaces and protecting them also, the research that exists is evident that these spaces are quickly disappearing. So I think also there's a disconnection a little bit, and maybe you can speak a little bit about it, is that you have found yourself in this community, and essentially it's the beginning of how you could get to protecting these spaces and creating these venues. However, what do you think the disconnection is between being a member of a scene and actually translating into like a more active like member of the city and shaping spaces?
Dog, that's a big question. I don't think we have the answers, honestly. The intent is the first step, The idea and the intent in conversations like this is the first start. And being like we keep saying again and again, supportive of other people in the scene, and trying to make this a good space for all. But again, who knows what that looks like? I think just searching for these opportunities, and just having the presence of mind of knowing where there might be an opportunity to bring what you love to more people, which is what we want to do. And I think like you were saying, like touching on gentrification and touching on how Berlin used to how it is. You know, I think anywhere you go, no matter what city it is, people create a cool space. People want to move to that cool space because it's cool, and then the coolness kind of evaporates out, right? That's just standard culture. That's standard gentrification. That's standard, right? But we spread out, you know.
Let's transition to Heavy's music.
Yeah.
Badge Bruiser. Talk about this song for a little bit.
Yeah.
Fast then slow.
Fast and slow.
That's the short version.
The meaning behind the song actually kind of came. It was kind of one of those songs where we were writing it, and then a lot of the stuff that really like spookily paralleled what I was writing about happened, because when I was starting to write lyrics for that, a lot of the George Floyd protests were happening, and things were really starting to make an aggressive move forward across the world. So it just felt super right that like I have basically we start with the music, and then I kind of sit with that music and I say, hey, how does this song make me feel? And you know, I start to write a couple lines on that, and then once we got to that point where lines were written and I knew the intent, and then these things were happening, it's just like the lyrics wrote themselves, you know. But yeah, Badge Bruiser is a song about people in power, people of responsibility that are using that responsibility for their internal gain.
you were to come up with a proposal as to how we can increase this engagement, we can increase the dialogue as artists, not only musicians, but also promoters, venue owners, people that just love music, and kind of like elevate each other, as we've been speaking about, what would that look like in your mind?
I think what would be really good would be like diversifying a bit more, both like people-wise, but also music-wise. Because let's be real, it's mostly like white dudes playing this kind of music that we do, and it would be fun to see a bit more like variety.
Absolutely.
And also music-wise, I think like also the kind of music that we play, it becomes more interesting with different elements. And it could be like we have a really tight, nice community, but there's other really tight, nice communities out there, and if we can like do something together, that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Like I don't know, like if we want to do a stoner techno event, but I mean that would be awesome.
No, that would be sick, man. That would be sick. That's a great idea.
We'll bring the lights and they can bring the music.
Yeah, you know, like that's a great idea, man. Honestly, like moving, because we have these groups around Berlin that are very tight knit and they're very strong, and you know, maybe the point isn't to try to grow the community, but to reach out to other communities. And,
absolutely.
And kind of find ways that's like, hey man, those techno guys, they've got the lights, they've got the setup. You know, that's funny. But that's kind of cool. That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, I think you're touching on something super important, which is like building bridges essentially between music itself and also between different people that ultimately, I think, when it comes down to the essence of our passions and the ideas and what we ideally want, they're very similar. However, you know, like these bridges are not quite there, but I love the idea of trying to reach out to other communities and other groups and you know, like realize that we have more common interest than we probably think.
Totally.
Yeah.
And with that comes a lot of diversity, you know. I think that's what I agree, super important. And
So now, taking this into consideration, how do you perceive the role of social media in this process?
right. So I think knowing the place for it is important, right? Knowing when stuff's happening and knowing when you're just creating noise where somebody's confused, like, what? I don't want to see this right now, you know? Like, post when it's important, and then shut the fuck up when you shut the fuck up, you know?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's also a broader question of like, where are our I don't know, assets or whatever you want to call it, like your Facebook page and your Spotify's and your followers and whatnot, you know? Yeah. Like if all of that went away tomorrow, like what would we have to work with, you know? Yeah. So there's also that question.
It's true.
And sometimes it can feel a bit like frustrating that you have to like build a Facebook following when, you know, you want to play music. But also you kind of have to be there because honestly that's where I go to find bands and to get any sort of image of what are they, what do they do, you know?
Yeah.
So.
You three come from very different parts of the world. We have Ukraine, we have Finland, we have Seattle. Going back to kind of like this idea of perhaps connecting with different groups and different demographics and interests, is there anything that you, from your experience, can kind of bring into 2021 and say, I saw this work over here, or maybe this completely failed, this idea failed. Is there anything that you can draw to say, we can learn from this experience in order to apply it to where we stand right now?
I think bands that have been successful lately have been crossing, like moving rock, just being rock, to taking and crossing over to different genres and different sounds. And that's what I think is super cool, because we have a huge, I mean, you think of Berlin and we've got this techno scene, and there is some real sick sounds that you can get from crossing this rock and electronic style, you know. And so anyway, I think what we should learn from Seattle is just keeping this vibe of just support and, you know, being open and going out to different venues, whether you've heard of the band or not, you know, supporting the local acts.
Yeah, if I could bring anything from my hometown, then it would probably be something like the fact that the place I'm from is very small, but it still had like a little music scene, or there was something happening. There was people got together and organized shows and went to each other's things, and even though it was a really small place. And I think that's something that maybe we can think about here as well, like not within Berlin, but like outside of the city, like think outside the city, and there's a lot of really small places that have really cool things going on.
Oh yeah.
And it's worth going there and find just some new people and new audiences. And that also sort of creates a different relationship probably to the city, because you see it maybe from a little different perspective.
I saw you, for example, played in Dresden, and you know, it's also a place that has this vibe. Like you see, people are organizing, and people are, you know, how are you welcomed in a place like this, for example?
The Dresden show was
Which
super fun. It was the
Kleingarten?
yeah.
Oh shit, that was a cool show. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's like in a Kleingartenanlage, so it's just like in the middle of a huge garden. There's a little house, and when we get there, it doesn't look like much, but then exactly at 7 o'clock or whatever, like 100 people in black leather jackets show up, and they're like digging it. And
It
it's
was
like,
it was sick, honestly, and that's another point that's kind of like reaching back to what we were talking about. It's like finding opportunities to create spaces to have music happen. Freaking Kleingartenanlage, like who knew that would work? And it works there, you know. Like so, like we need to find clever ways to kind of fight getting pushed out of the city as musicians. Just like
we were
Dresden.
given the wrong address or something.
yeah.
Dog, Dresden.
Are we?
It was sick.
Okay, we're gonna transition now to the future. We're gonna look into the future. Everybody knows the situation has been extremely challenging for many people. However, we can only look forward to brighter days for artists and for everyone, really. If you were to kind of take this post-pandemic idea, which hopefully will come sooner rather than later, how do you expect Berlin to respond? How do you see this going on? Do you think it will be a kind of like a thriving city once again, and there will be a lot of opportunities, or also this vulnerability, which is being tremendously exposed at this point in time for venues and for artists, will kind of have a negative effect on what the future might look like?
I think it's gonna be positive, man. I think people are just gonna be just like, holy shit, finally, you know, and there's gonna be shows out the fucking wazoo, man. I think it's gonna be...
Unless the venues are still open.
That's the deal. We're gonna find ways. People play a show in the fucking street, man. It's gonna be great. That's what I firmly believe, man. We're finally gonna be able to be in the same space listening to loud music and just fucking going at it, man. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think that's the right attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gonna be challenges for sure, but we just have to make sure that, because I think everyone's gonna be excited. That's not the problem. The problem is, or the challenge would be like making it happen, and I think that's on everyone, kind of, actually. But also, I hope for government money and stuff, you know. and that you don't forget that even though at some point the pandemic is gonna end, but that doesn't mean that the problems stop there. Like there's still work that you have to do and support you need in order to make it work after.
I agree, and I think it is the right attitude to have. And if this is going to be the way everything kind of develops, then do you think this is a massive opportunity for us as artists to kind of harness this positive energy and ultimately, you know, outside of everyone being tremendously excited going to shows, like, could this be kind of like an opening for us to do a little bit more than just return to our fun, state?
Sure. Why not? I mean, when things change, that's a great opportunity to change a little bit more.
Yeah, where there's restrictions and problems, there's ways to overcome that, and there's opportunities that you might not have thought of before.
And creativity.
Exactly, creativity.
Yeah.
We've had a super important dialogue. I think we can all take super important things out of this. And we've talked about kind of expanding ourselves both through music and also geographically meeting other people. What it takes to creating kind of this self-sustaining community. Do you have any kind of reflections or any closing remarks that you would like to kind of bring back to the surface and say, let's look forward to this?
Yeah. I think we got some time ahead of us before things will be stabilized. I don't want to say normal. Things are going to be different. But I think what we will be doing as a band and as community members in this music scene is looking for ways to creatively engage people that are just the best in the world. The Berlin audiences, the Berlin rock crowd, man, it's the best in the world. It's these people. They're at the shows. They're supportive, and we're really excited to get back. And we're gonna find some cool ways to kind of make that happen again. Whether it's how it was before or how it will be.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting all the people again and seeing more than 3 people at once. Yeah.
And until then, I just hope bands won't give up.
Yeah.
Be patient, the stamina to hold through this process and to say, okay, there is a light at the end of the horizon, so we can come back. And even though you have to stick in like rehearsal rooms and the only thing that you do is like social media, but it will end at some point.
Yeah, and I think the last thing is it's important to reach out to each other, people that you haven't heard from in a while, like ping them, bands that you haven't heard from in a while, hit them up, see what's going on, see how they're doing. It's important to kind of keep our humanistic side going while we're kind of all isolated like this in more ways than just musical,
Well, guys, it has been an absolute pleasure. From all of us here at Syndicate Berlin, we thank you for your time, for this great evening and conversation, and we look forward to continue to collaborating with you for many years to come, hopefully. So, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Syndicate.
Thank you.
where they stand.